The world of project management in selecting projects to meet organizational objectives. The accomplishment of important tasks and goals in organizations today is being achieved increasingly through the use of projects. A new kind of organization has emerged recently to deal with the accelerating growth in the number of multiple, simultaneously ongoing, and often interrelated projects in organizations. This project-oriented organization, often called enterprise project management or management by projects, and similar names was created to tie projects more closely to the organization's goals and strategy and to integrate and centralize management methods for the growing number of ongoing projects. Given that the organization has an appropriate mission, statement, and strategy, selected projects should be consistent with the strategic goals of the organization. We first discuss a variety of common project selection methods. We then describe the process of strategically selecting the best set of projects for the implementation, called the project portfolio process. Project selection is the process of evaluating individual projects or groups of projects and then choosing to implement a set of them so that the objectives of the parent organization are achieved. Before a project begins its life cycle, it must have been selected for funding by the parent organization. Whether the project was proposed by someone within the organization or an outside client, it is subject to approval by a more or less formal selection process, often conducted by a committee of senior managers. Conditions to be considered in undertaking any project. The major function of the selection process is to ensure that several conditions are considered before a commitment is made to undertake any project. First, is the project potentially profitable? Does it have a chance to meet our return on investment hurdle rate? Second, is the project required by law or the rules of an industrial association, for example, a mandate? Third, does the firm have or can it easily acquire the knowledge and skills to carry out the project successfully? Fourth, does the project involve building competencies that are considered consistent with our firm's strategic plan? Does the organization currently have the capacity to carry out the project on its proposed schedule? And lastly, in the case of R&D projects, if the project is technically successful, does it meet all requirements to make it economically successful? This list could be greatly extended. Methods of selecting projects. There are many different methods for selecting projects, but they may be grouped into two fundamental types, which is the non-numeric and numeric. Non-numeric selection method. The sacred cow at times, the organization's chief executive officer or CEO or other senior executive casually suggests a potential product or service that the organization might offer to its customers. The suggestion often starts, I was thinking that we might, and concludes with, take a look at it and see if it looks sensible. If not, well, drop the whole thing. The operating or competitive necessity. This method select any project that is necessary for continued operation of a group, facility, or the firm itself. A mandated project obviously must be selected. If the answer to the is it necessary question is yes, and if we wish to continue using the facility or system to stay in business, the project is selected. Comparative benefits. Many organizations have to select from the list of projects that are complex, difficult to assess, and often non-comparable. Example, United Way organizations or R&D organizations. Such institutions often appoint a selection committee made up of knowledgeable individuals. Each person is asked to arrange a set of potential projects into a rank or ordered set. Numeric selection method. Financial assessment methods. Most firms select projects on the basis of their expected economic value to the firm. Although there are many economic assessment methods available, payback period, average annual rate of return, or internal rate of return, financial options and opportunity cost. A more recent approach to the project selection employs financial analysis that recognizes the value of positioning the organization to capitalize on future opportunities. It is based on the financial options approach to valuing prospective capital investment opportunities. Scoring methods Scoring methods were developed to overcome some of the disadvantages of the simple financial profitable methods, especially their focus on a single criterion. The simplest scoring approach, the weighted 0 to 1 factor method, lists multiple criteria of significant interest to management. The payback period for a period is the initial fixed investment in the project divided by the estimated annual net cash inflows from the project, which include the cash inflows from this depreciation of the investment. The ratio of these quantities is the number of years required for the project to return its initial investment. Because of this perspective, the payback period is often considered a surrogate measure of risk to the firm. The longer the payback period, the greater the risk to the firm. To illustrate, if a project requires an investment of $100,000 and is expected to return a net cash inflow of $25,000 each year, then the payback period is simply 100,000 divided by 25,000 equals 4 years, assuming the 25,000 annual inflow continues at least 4 years. Although this is a popular financial assessment method, it ignores the time value of money as well as any returns beyond the payback period. For these reasons, it is not recommended as a project selection method, though it is valuable for cash budgeting. The discounted cash flow method considers the time value of money, the inflation rate, and the firm's return on investment or the ROI hurdle rate for projects. The annual cash inflows and outflows are collected and discounted to their net present value or the NPV using the organization's required rate or of return, aka the hurdle rate or cutoff rate. So here is the formula. If one wishes to include the potential effects of inflation or deflation in the calculation, it is quite easily done. The discounting term 1KT simply becomes 1KPT, where PT is the estimated rate of inflation or deflation for period T. If the required rate of return is 10% and we expect the rate of inflation will be 3%, then the discount factor becomes 1.10.03 T 1.13 T for that period. The world of project management in confronting uncertainty, the management of risk. As we note throughout this book, projects are all about uncertainty. An effective project management requires an ability to deal with uncertainty. The time required to complete a project, the availability and of cost of key resources, the timing of solutions to technological problems, a wide variety of macroeconomic variables, the whims of a client, the actions taken by the competitors, even the likelihood that the output of project will perform as expected. All this exemplify the uncertainties encountered when managing projects. While there are actions that may be taken to reduce the uncertainty, no actions of a project management can ever eliminate it. As Hatfield 2008 points out, projects are complex and include interfaces, interdependencies, and many assumptions, any or all of which may turn out to be wrong. Also, projects are managed by people, and that adds to the uncertainty. Gale 2008 reminds us that the uncertainties include everything from legislation that can change how we do business to earthquakes and other acts of God. Therefore, in today's turbulent business environment, effective decision making is predicated on an ability to manage the ambiguity that arises while we operate in a world characterized by uncertain information. The first thing we must do is to identify these potentially uncertain events and the likelihood that any or all may occur. This is called risk analysis. Different managers and organizations approach this problem in different ways. Gale advises expecting the unexpected. Some managers suggest considering those things that keep one awake at night. Many organizations keep formalize a risk register and use their project management office to maintain and update the list of risks and suggested approaches to deal with specific risks that have been successful in the past. The essence of risk analysis is to make estimates or assumptions about the probability distributions associated with key parameters and variables, and to use analytic decision modes or Monte Carlo simulation models based on these distributions to evaluate the desirability of certain managerial decisions. Real world problems are usually large enough that the use of analytic models is very difficult and time consuming. With modern computer software, simulation is not difficult. It is important to point out the approaches in which only the most likely estimate of in our consideration of risk management in the psychoceramic sciences example, we based our analysis on an expected value approach to risk. The expected cost of a risk is the estimated cost of the risk if it does occur times the probability that will occur.